I'm Maggie. Welcome to Experiments in Crafting. Welcome to everyone who's joining. Thanks for joining me tonight. Um, Tonight is I'm going to talk about a little bit different topic, I guess. It's crochet related, but I've been working on an amigurumi doll that is a character, and the last doll that I made, I just used safety eyes, which are these round black plastic eyes. And I really wasn't it, I was afraid that the character would look very like different and not very accurate if I used just black plastic eyes. And so I've been talking with my husband, and we've been thinking about what we could do to make better looking eyes. I did a little bit of research on what people do for like character eyes. Some people use felt. Some people hand draw them on fabric and then cut them out after like covering them with nail polish. There were a number of different options. My art skills are not amazing, but what we came up with is we have this embroidery machine in the basement, and we hadn't really used it very much, but um Brother, which is the manufacturer on the machine, sells software where you can, or maybe they don't sell it, but you can get software that will let you do your own designs. But we found a free version, like an open source version, that lets us take images, or you can draw like freehand with the computer and turn them into embroidered designs. And so that's what I've been working on, and I've got some like examples to show you. They look pretty weird right now, because, well, I think part of the reason that they look weird is because they still have a white outline. I think I need to match the outline to the same skin tone as the doll, because when I put it against fabric, it's got this stark white outline. And I can show you what I mean a little bit. Here's the doll with no facial features yet, and you can see, like, obviously, this eye is too big, but I've got a more appropriate sized eye here. You can see that it looks pretty odd. I don't know if I can lay this down and still put the face parts on where you can see. I can probably tip the doll up just a little bit. But it looks pretty odd, and I think um, I think part of it is because they're not laying flat. I think part of it is because of the white outline, and I think part of it is because the doll has no hair and looks pretty ridiculous. So bear with me a little bit. This is a brand new technique that I'm working with, and then this might be a total failure. Like, I'll be perfectly honest. This could go very badly. It could also be that I have to do no mouthpiece. So there's the little mouth. I might have to do no mouth because, yeah. Yeah, you guys can probably hear my husband laughing. It looks pretty ridiculous. But I honestly think it's gonna turn out pretty cool. It is, Stephanie's mentioning it reminds her of an anime style. It is an anime style character that I'm copying. But like I said, I think this is sort of a premature update. This is what I've been working on for the last week. I got the doll like base done. You'll also notice that there is one string here hanging off the back. This will let me, if I pull this out and unstitch, I can get back into the head and put black eyes in. So I left the last string. I haven't sewn this in. It's only got a single knot holding it in place. So I can remove the top of the head and get back in and put safety eyes in if I have to. But I'm going to give this a go. I'm probably going to finish the hair. The hair doesn't extend below this like skull cap thing on the top here. It hangs down, but it, like you can see on this doll, none of the hair is on the skin tone. It's all in the like cap portion. And so you can see here that the hair hangs down nice. So I think I can still do most of the hair without preventing myself from being able to remove it if I have to. So we'll see what I can do. I might not be able to go all the way to the edge. I might have to stay one row in order to leave myself that flexibility. I think alternatively, I could use glass eyes, which I think can be put in afterwards. I don't think they have to go on first, but I could be wrong about that. I haven't done a whole lot of looking into glass eyes. I guess I could also use buttons, like shank buttons, and sew them on by hand. So I've probably got a few options that'll let me play around with the eyes without having to commit to the embroidered eyes right this second. But anyway, that's what I've been working on the last week or so. It's been a lot of fun. We've used a program called Inkscape. That's an open source software, and then there's an extension for it. And that lets you save it as a PES file, which is like Brother's proprietary thing. And then it kind of does a little bit of magic in the background and does like all the stitching. It was a little bit of a challenge to get working, but it was pretty fun. Kind of a project that we could work on together and get running. And so yeah, it was a lot of fun trying to do this, and basically you have to find an image, and I did one where I like hand traced it with the software. We tried some digital tracing basically. There's a number of different options, so it was kind of fun. Even if we don't use those eyes, I think we'll probably start embroidering a lot more stuff. Turns out you can embroider pretty much anything with this machine. We've seen oven mitts and kitchen towels and hats and backpacks. I'm trying to think what else. I'd like to figure out how to make like iron-on transfers. So I don't know if you guys have much experience with embroidery machines or using appliques instead of like safety eyes or glass eyes or buttons for dolls. But I'd love to hear about that. Welcome to those joining. Thank you for joining me tonight. But yeah, I mean, that's really all I've had an opportunity to work on. I'd like to start, I think I'm going to start a shawl out of one of the yarns that I showed you guys last week. I actually was considering this morning winding a ball of yarn up and just sort of ran out of time before I had to leave for work. So I might actually do that while I'm on stream. It's not terribly interesting to watch, but it would give you guys a chance to ask questions and me to answer while I'm kind of just doing something down here. I think it's called tendrils. If I remember correctly, it's a crochet pattern. It's kind of an open block. It's got a little bit of the lizard look to it, like the lizard shawl that has the step sides. Yes. So yeah, he's gonna post the link of the shawl that I'm gonna start on. And I'm not really sure which yarn I'm gonna do that with. I've got a couple options here. So it's a shawl that is worked in rows and it turns. And so these are all the yarns that I opened last week. And I'm probably going to not use this one because this yarn I suspect is going to pool oddly with the short rows. So I think we're going to put this one off to the side after I get it I'm really bad at rehanking yarn. That one didn't go too badly. This is the part that I mess up every time, where I don't leave my fingers in the loop, and then I have to undo it and redo it. So let's see if I can do this correctly while leaving my fingers. Make a real mess of this. Let's see. Stephanie said that she would embroider everything if she had an embroidery machine. And Val said it sounds like I'm going to have a lot of fun. We've actually had that embroidery machine for a while now. But this is the first time we've been able to like get the part where we do the design working. Um, it's interesting because you can buy all sorts of patterns. They tend to be on the cutesy side, and I don't know, like you can get embroidery patterns with like, you know, like glasses of wine that say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and like you embroider tea towels, and they're kind of a very specific type of pattern that didn't, I guess, really speak to me. There's obviously a variety in there, but they're all, yeah, they're my husband said like Kathy from the newspaper. It was just a very specific type of um like aesthetic, I guess, that wasn't really for me. And then the rest of the stuff, if it wasn't like that, it was baby stuff, which is adorable, but I just didn't really have that many babies to embroider anything for. So this is kind of fun because it's a different application for it. Um and now we can put whatever we want on whatever we want. So yeah. That's the shawl that I'm working on. So we popped the picture in there from Ravelry. The link is in the chat. So that's what I'm going to be working on. It's a pretty open shawl with kind of like a jagged edge. So that's what I'm kind of trying to choose yarn for here. I'm leaning between these two, I think, right now. For that particular shawl. So, and more so I'm leaning to this one, but I'm not sure. This one, yeah, I think I'm going to do this one. So, this one I think I want to be a triangle shawl. I don't know why, but that's what I'm feeling. So, I'm going to pull out my Swift and my winder. And then, as always, while I'm working on this, you guys are welcome to, and not only welcome, but encouraged to ask me whatever, tell me about what's going on, what you're working on, ask questions about crochet, yarn, a little bit about embroidery now that I've done, 3 patterns or something. Yeah. The embroidery machine is a pretty different beast to, hand crocheting or anything like that. It goes so fast, and things, when they're going smoothly, are really, really cool to watch, but a little terrifying. We broke a couple of needles just in the kind of learning process. And yeah, it was, I don't know. It was a little bit, I guess, a little more dangerous than I expected. Well, it's probably not actually dangerous, but yeah, I'm, I don't know, a wimp, I guess. A lot of people like the blue yarn. The blue yarn is the one that I placed the order for. So that's really the yarn that I was like after when I put that order in. This one is one that I really, really liked when I was ordering, but it was not the one that like made me go to the website and actually buy yarn. But like I said, that blue yarn, I think I want it to be a very open triangle shawl. I kind of have a specific type of shawl in mind for that particular yarn. I'm actually not sure how I will like this yarn with the pattern that I chose, but I'm going to see how it starts working up. This one might also pool oddly, which I don't really want. But I found the last couple times that I've worked with the Sock Obsession yarns, I had a harder time than I would have expected trying to figure out exactly how they were going to pool. They pooled just a little bit differently than I was expecting, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It was just not what I expected. All right, just the two there. And then when I do yarn like this, I try... Oh, nope, there's one more here. This is weird. Well, okay. I thought the tie there had 4 yarns going to it, like the first one did. And it didn't. I just had a yarn caught weirdly. I just missed a tie when I went around. That's also why I go slowly, like one full wrap, to make sure that everything is as expected. Now, I prefer to get my Swift as far away from my winder as possible. It gives you a little bit more time to react if you've got a problem. I think, did you get the video up and were you able to play it?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
So I can play it.
Yeah, well, we're going to play just a short clip of the embroidery machine working. This is working on one of the small eyes that I showed. Yeah, so this is at half speed. So it starts out about the first 6 or 7 stitches there, where it goes real slow. Make sure that it has the bobbin thread.
But it was actually running twice as fast in real life.
Yeah. And then now, yeah, so it was actually running twice this fast. In real life, this video is slowed down to half speed so that you can kind of see it work in action. But yeah, that's the embroidery machine working there, and working on the little eye. I think it was just doing the center of the eye, the little pupil part there, so it was only a few stitches. I mean, realistically, it was probably like 75 stitches, but it only took just a second or two. So back to doing this. I've shown winding on here several times before, but the general rule I like to do is I like to get this Swift really about as far away as I can comfortably get it. Move it one more time. That just gives you a little bit more time to react if you have a tangle or something like that. If they're right on top of each other, the Swift has a tendency to keep unwrapping as you go. And so you might end up with like little tangles if you get it too close. At least that's what I found in my experience. And then I like to start off nice and slow and find where my yarn is going to catch terribly. That happens usually quite a bit. Twist in the yarn that you don't expect. There we go. Okay, let's try that. And get this wound up. Sometimes you can tell how yarn is going to pool by just watching it wrap. I think you'll be surprised when I pull this off how confetti looking it is. So it looks more consistent. And this is what I was talking about with the Sock Obsession yarns. I have a harder time telling exactly how these are going to pool. And the more I look at how this is winding, the more I'm convinced that this is a pretty good choice for that shawl that I chose. Let's see. Catcraft had to walk away for a minute and came back to a lot of confusion and chaos. So what I was mentioning is the breaking needles and the danger. The embroidery machine moves so fast, and if anything goes wrong in that very brief amount of time, it kind of goes bad, like relatively violently. So the needles, I've broken needles sewing. They almost always just break the tip, or sometimes you'll break one like totally in half. But the embroidery needles seem to break and curl up and kind of like stab back through the fabric. They're going so fast, and really the machine is pretty smart and knows when things have gone wrong, but it takes like 20 stitches before it realizes that there's a problem. And so we actually slowed the machine down, and I felt much more comfortable working with it. I'm sure that as I get used to it, and learn what's causing my needles to break. In this case, I'm pretty sure it was that my thread was not seated tight enough, and the yarn kept catching. And once the yarn catches, it has like a tension spike at the tip of the needle, which causes it to go pretty, like I said, pretty bad, pretty fast. So, so this is winding up pretty nice. And when I get it off of here, I'll show you what I meant by it's much more speckly than I expected, based on how that how the yarn looked. And like I said, this is a good test sometimes to see what your yarn, how your yarn is gonna pool up. Is wrap it, and it gives you a little bit clearer picture of how it's gonna work up. All right. Like I said, you guys are free to ask questions. I'll do my best to answer, crochet, knit, or not knitting, really. Crochet, yarn, any questions about the machine embroidery. If you guys have experience doing machine embroidery or using patches or appliques on amigurumi, I'd love to hear those as well. I'm going to try this out. I haven't decided what kind of glue I'm going to use to hold the eyes on. But I'm leaning towards hot glue, actually, because the hot glue can be peeled back off if I want. And then once I'm totally happy with it, then I might fabric glue them actually down. But yeah. Yeah. So my husband suggested Velcro as an option. It's a possibility. It would give you some flexibility in, give me some flexibility in like changing expressions if I wanted to. I'm a little bit worried about the depth that would create, because Velcro is actually pretty thick. So the eyes would be like away from the skin. So. Val said she's enjoying watching me wind. It's meditative. So here's this wound yarn. Let me grab the tag, which fell somewhere. There it is. All right. This yarn is, again, Sock Obsessions yarn. It's called Hotter Cousin is the name of the colorway. What's it? Okay, yeah. So when I wrap my yarns, I take the label and I put it in the center as I pull it off, and then the label stays in there because eventually I'll forget what this is. And if I don't finish the ball, I work from the outside, and if I don't finish the ball, then it stays with the rest of the yarn. So this you can see here if we swap cameras. But it worked up a lot more speckly, or well, not worked up, but like spun up a lot more speckly. And you can see when it was hanked in that loop, the the speckles were in chunks, but you can see that they get way more split up through the yarn. So it's a very different type of different type of look. So it gives you a little bit more idea of how it might work up, especially if I turn it this way. You can see it's mostly going to be tan with just some sort of confetti. It reminds me of like a funfetti cake. It's kind of like tan cake colored with sprinkles. All right, Stephanie said she's got a question. She checked Ravelry after last week, but I don't know much about materials. So I'd like you or anyone's opinion on what you would make of 700 yards of mercerized cotton, sport weight. Mercerized cotton. Sport weight mercerized cotton. That I feel like I would go shawl with that in particular. It's not going to be cozy warm, like a wool sport weight or even like an acrylic sport weight. It's going to be kind of a harder yarn. It's not going to have a whole lot of give, but it should be really shiny and like look really nice. It probably will have beautiful stitch definition. I would go with something maybe lacy, but definitely something that you really want to highlight the pattern, because a solid mercerized yarn is probably not going to it's not going to have a whole lot of like variation. It shouldn't have a whole lot of like distraction, I guess. So I'd really go with something that is really showing off your pattern instead of showing off the yarn. The yarn in this case is going to be relatively consistent, and I don't want to say uninteresting, but it's just not going to be like the showpiece. I think the pattern will really shine in that case. So at least that's what I would go for. This is a case where a really detailed pattern should really stand out. And I would go for something maybe a little outside your comfort zone as far as like some techniques that you haven't worked, because 700 yards is a kind of a big commitment. And so you might want something that's going to keep your interest rather than like 700 yards of like the same 3-row repeat the whole way through. Might look for something that has a little bit of change throughout. The Big Love shawl that I did for my wedding shawl would be about the right like size for that much yarn. I think I did it out of about 800 yards of fingering weight, but 700 yards of 700 yards of sport weight should give you a shawl in the ballpark of the same amount, or same size, I guess, is what I'm getting at. But that has a really interesting, like, it changes stitches throughout the pattern a couple of times. I can pull it out and show you what I mean. So in this shawl, you've got this section. Oh, we're going to switch cameras here. This section here is shells and kind of open. This section here is V-stitches. They're kind of hard to see with this dark. I don't know if I put my arm against it. Not really. It doesn't really help. But this section here, that's a little better if I hold it up, is V-stitches. You can kind of see them over here. And then this section is like split shells. They're real little and have lot more holes. And then there we go. So let me show one more time. So you've got shells here in the center. and then V-stitches, and then sort of like split more open shells, and then there's some like vertical bar sections, and then this real lacy section, and then the little pokey things at the end. So that's kind of what I was getting at. It doesn't have to be a shawl quite this large, though 700 yards is going to get you in this ballpark. But doing something where you have to change technique a handful of times. I think I have one other shawl like that. Where did I clear that off to? This one. I haven't pulled this one out in a little while. This is a similar shawl. This one's triangle instead of... Yeah. So this one has these, like, I don't know, leaf shapes at the center. And then it goes to the open, like, geometric block-looking lace. And then is this, like, holy, like, I don't know, spiderwebby looking lace. And then this one that's got like grape shapes. And then there's some like vertical pieces. And then this like mermaid scale looking one. So there's just a whole bunch of different stitches. And right around the time that you get bored with one section, it changes, which is kind of nice. At least for me, 200-gram shawls, I have a hard time like keeping interested, and especially if they're really dense, samey type of stitches. For example, I could not do like an alternating single crochet, double crochet shawl all the way out to 200 grams. I just quit. And I don't mean I would quit. I have one on the wall that I just quit. So that would be my suggestion. If I was going to do something out of a solid color, and that much yardage, I would pick something that really is going to shine pattern-wise. So either of those options is fine. Any shawl that has something interesting going on would be fine. 700 yards, you're looking at a piece of clothing, so either a shawl or a vest or something in that ballpark. It's not quite enough to do a blanket. You could maybe do some sort of table runner that had a nice pattern to it if you wanted. Mercerized cotton wouldn't be a bad choice for housewares. And it wouldn't be damaged by... that is the pattern that I don't even know how to say it, but you're correct there. Yeah, Ed Lothian. Yeah, I think there's another L in there somewhere too. But yes, that's the correct pattern. But yeah, I think you could do a table runner. I think housewares would be a reasonable application for mercerized cotton. You could maybe do a set of like placemats if they were real lacy, but 700 yards is probably not gonna do 4 placemats for a table. Like I said, you could maybe get like a somewhat lacy table runner if you didn't want to do clothing, but it's 700 yards of sport weight. You're into a significant piece of clothing. Like I said, a lacy vest, a shawl, really not enough for a blanket. So yeah, that's where I would head. Let's see. A couple people talking about journals. I do not keep a journal. I have this, which is a little bit of a documentation of what I'm doing week to week, but also, I frankly, I just don't have time to do that as well. So I would really like to get better at documenting on Ravelry, because I use the feature of like projects so much from other people, and I feel a little bit bad not like contributing back to that. But that's about all the journaling type activity I would do. Um, but yeah, I think it's a really cool thing to like be able to look back and see what you've been working on and see how you've progressed. It's just not something I have a tendency to keep up with. Um, and Stephanie's got uh that pattern name and the designer there on the triangle shaped one. The other one is called Big Love. Um, and that's the one that I used for my wedding shawl. So, yeah. I'm trying to think other than working on this shawl and the doll. I don't really have a whole lot that I'm like actively working on right now. Um, it's actually been a little bit not annoying, but I'm at a place where I can't really take this doll with me to work because really all I need to work on is the hair, which I need to just sit on the couch and like stick my hook through and like arrange and do things like that. Um, so I like to take a project with me, pretty much always, and not that I really get any opportunity to work on it at work or anywhere, but I hate the feeling of not having something with me if I were to have to go somewhere. Um, so if I had to go, you know, to some sort of appointment or a doctor's office or whatever, I just like knowing that I have a project with me that I can work on if I end up sort of stuck somewhere. Even like if I broke down on the side of the road, like if I had to sit for a little bit, it would just be something to occupy my mind. So, um, but yeah, I haven't had anything that like can travel with me real easy. So, um, yeah. I don't know about you guys. Do you guys take projects everywhere with you? Um, I I always have a project with me, pretty much no matter what. Even if we're just running to the grocery store, I usually have a project with me. Um, just as much as I carry my wallet and my phone, I carry a crochet project. Let's see. Stephanie said, "Which rag doll do I want to make from my book first? I have the koala pattern on Revelry to make soon." I don't know which one I'm going to end up making first. I actually really love the little robot. I don't really have any reason to make it. Like I don't have anyone to give the little robot to, but let me see if I can find that one real quick. Here it is. My crochet bookshelf is getting kind of tight. I'm going to have to move some stuff. Let me see if I can find the little robot real quick. Page 127. All right. There's the robot. I don't know. I kind of think he's hilarious. So, just a little square-headed flat robot. I don't even know like who you give that to as a gift, but I don't know. I thought it was really cute. The penguin is also super cute. So, I think this book has both the adult penguin and the baby penguin. Penguins on 81. Is there a better picture? There it is. It's hard to bend this book enough to show, but I think that'll do it. There's the penguin. I love the penguin. I think I've got all of the yarn to actually do the penguin right now. It's all the same colors as I bought for the fox. So, and if I remember correctly, these take a shockingly little amount of yarn. I think I did the whole giraffe. which, by the way, Stephanie was able to find my giraffe pictures. Well, not pictures, but video. So I mentioned when I pulled this book out and did the unboxing on that whole order of books that I couldn't find the pictures of the giraffe that I made by this artist. So this is all of these ragdolls are by Ala Sasha, and she has a really cool giraffe that's done with mosaic crochet, and I could not find a single picture. And I had given it as a gift, and I was sure that we had done something with it. And I looked through my entire phone. We looked through the computer where we keep all of our like images. I looked on our shared drive, nothing. And so Stephanie actually messaged me and let me know that we had featured it in a review of the sheep's river washed and stone washed yarn. So that was really cool because now I can go back and pull stills out of there and actually have those around. So
I would pull it up,
yeah.
but I cannot figure out how to work Instagram.
Yeah.
How do I get to the message that has the photo?
There should be a little paper airplane up in the top right corner on just like the main page. Like when you log in or if you hit the like little symbol in the corner. He's asking how to work Instagram. Instagram is non-intuitive in a lot of ways. Not a great platform.
Can I save things?
You could do a screenshot with your phone. I don't know how else. Val said that it's adorable. I think she was talking about the penguin there. And then let's see. Do I know how the coloring of the yarn be soft and sleek DK compares to the sheep's yarn? I actually think I have some soft and sleek DK. And we could pull them out and take a look. The soft and sleek looks, it's probably pretty similar once it works up. I think it looks a little different, but if you bear with me 1 second, I will grab it. Yeah. Give me just 1 second. I gotta find my DK bin. I think it's this one. So I found the DK bin. Soft and sleek right here. You luck out because I just did a whole bunch of yarn organizing. I actually never posted that picture. There's a picture of me sitting like, I don't know, waist deep in yarn. Sorting all of this out. And then if I reach way across here, I can grab the multi-pack of sheep's yarn, the stone washed. And we will pull them out and compare. So this is there a color? Mink. And looks like it's pretty close to obsidian. And not terribly far off the black yarn. It's not a good substitute for the smoky quartz, which is like the lightest gray. And then this one is magenta. And that's probably the closest color in there. Not bad. Go with that one. Pull those two out. All right. Now I can kind of show these off a little bit. All right. So this is the mink versus the closest stonewashed colors I could find. There's those. And like I said, this one is a little bit browner, but is a pretty close match for the mink. Like I said, this is the obsidian. This has pretty nice, like, variegation to it. The gray does. But the magenta doesn't really have much at all. There's no, like, white flecks or anything like that in the color. So it's a better match for this river washed, which is called Mekong. And then it's not very far off of red jasper, which is a lot pinker than I'd expect. But it doesn't have the white flecks like the red jasper does. So, as far as feel goes, honestly, the Soft and Sleek DK is softer. The stonewashed yarn is a little bit rougher, but still a very soft yarn. The stonewashed yarn is 78% acrylic, 22%, 78% cotton, 22% acrylic. The Soft and Sleek DK is 100% low pill acrylic. So you've got a little bit of difference in fiber type there as well. So that's that. Let's see, these are 114 grams or 487 yards. I guess let's try meters. So 114 grams, 137 meters. These are 10 grams, 26 meters. My brain's not doing math. I think this is a little bit lighter weight. These are labeled sport weight, and this is a DK. So they probably aren't a perfect substitute for each other, but I think you could get by substituting this in for some different patterns. But I really like how the stonewashed works up. I think it just looks really elegant. I don't know how this one works up in practice. I haven't actually used this one. Stephanie's asking, they look close. Do you think the variegated ones would work up similarly for the ragdolls? I think it would be fine if you used only this, like, how do I want to say this? I wouldn't mix the two because I don't think they're similar enough. But if you used all, like, Soft and Sleek DK, I think it would be fine. Your ragdoll might end up a little bit larger because this is a slightly larger yarn. And so if you don't, use an extra small hook or something like that, it might end up just a little bit larger than it should have. But I think it would be a reasonable drop-in substitute. I don't think there are a whole lot of other yarns I can think of that would be this similar. I'm trying to think of what has, like, this white speckled look to it. Mostly I'm coming up with denim yarns in my head. Like Lion Brand jeans, I think, is somewhat similar, but it's, I think, quite a bit heavier. This is a relatively fine DK weight. 437 meters. This might actually be closing in on a sport weight yarn. 100 grams of 260 on those. 100 grams on this is over 400. I take that back. This is actually probably, I mean, it's labeled DK, but it's probably closing in on a sport weight yarn. Where realistically this is labeled sport weight and is probably a little closer to DK. So they might actually substitute in for each other better than I would have thought. Joyce is asking if there's a sheen on the yarn. It's a little bit shiny. I wouldn't say it's outlandishly. In fact, for something called sleek, I'd almost expect it to be a little shinier. But yeah, I guess like as I'm tipping it into the light, I can see a little bit of reflection off of here. Um, it's not obnoxious, I don't think, but uh, it's a little on the shiny side. It's I don't think as shiny as something like Karen Simply Soft, which I think is very very shiny. Um, but is easily every bit as soft. So, um, yeah, I guess that's hopefully that helps. Stephanie says that Ragdoll Pattern says that the stonewash is DK. Yeah, it's interesting because these are labeled sport, but now that I do the math in my head, they're definitely closer to a DK, and honestly, this one's closer to a sport weight. Um, so they might be a better substitute, like I said, than I originally stated. So I think my answer still stands. I think it'll be just fine to substitute this in. Um, but I would stick with probably not mixing them uh, unless you're pretty sure that your tension is going to match. Um, but yeah, I think this would be a reasonable alternative. So, let's see. Okay. Stephanie was saying that she used a much lighter gray and wanted to know how it compared. I think this is the lightest gray in the sheep's stonewash here. You can see it's quite a bit lighter than the one that I have, than this mink color. But it might be, yeah. You are free to send me any pictures. I love seeing pictures of what people are working on. So, and that goes to anybody watching. If you want to send stuff to me on Facebook or Instagram at Experiments in Crafting, I really do enjoy getting those pictures, and just seeing what you guys are working on. So, yeah. Honestly, that's really about all I've got for the evening. Though I do want to mention, I think we're probably going to move the stream to Thursdays. I've had to relocate a whole bunch of streams to Thursday, and it seems like for whatever reason in my work week, Tuesdays end up being quite a bit more chaotic than Thursdays. I don't know why it is, but Thursdays is actually like my no meeting day. I don't have like a regularly weekly scheduled meeting that day. And for whatever reason, that day just seems to go much smoother, and I seem like I get out of work on time and there's a lot less going on. So I think we are actually going to make the move to Thursdays at same time, 8 p.m. Central, but I think we're actually going to do that. So we would not stream this Thursday coming up, because we're streaming right now. And then next week we won't stream Tuesday, but we'll stream Thursday. And so I will put together a little bit of information, or not really information, but like a little bit of a note or a graphic or something on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, and let you guys know, and sort of remind you that we're going to shift that over to Thursday. So, I guess the other thing is if you guys have ideas or topics you'd like me to cover, there's some topics that are easier to cover than others, but like I'd love to hear your ideas. Unless I'm actively working on something that I want to share with you, or unless there's like unboxing, it starts to become just a little bit difficult to think of what I'm going to share with you. So if you guys have ideas or requests or something, I can do my best to try and make that happen, because I'd like to tell you guys about things that interest you. So, and the easiest way to do that is to ask you what interests you and what you'd like to hear about. So sometimes it takes me a little bit of time to get that idea or get an idea like to come together. But we did have one viewer request a like a comparison of bamboo and like the man-made fiber yarns, and so we were able to actually do that about a week ago and maybe 2 weeks ago. So um anything like that helps so that I can um try and share those things with you or pull together uh ideas and videos that like I said that interest you guys. Stephanie's asking if I have a basket weave or waffle stitch video or tips. I don't think I have a basket weave or waffle stitch video. I did start working on a waffle stitch pillow, I think. I could probably dig that out and we could work through it a little bit next week. Maybe I can set the overhead camera up so that you can see my hands and show you how I work that a little bit. But honestly, it's really only post stitches. So it's front post and back post placed selectively. So if you have a good handle on front post and back post, it's just doing those in different patterns. Basket weave is generally 3 front post, 3 back post, 3 front post, 3 back post, and then you flip flop on the next row. Waffle stitch is 1 front post, 3 back post, 1 front post, 3 back post, and you maintain that same type of stitch all the way through. But yeah, I can I'm trying to remember if I did basket weave or waffle stitch on that pillow, but I can do either. So yeah, we could get a camera set up so that I can do a little bit of crochet work and you guys can see my hands a little bit better. And try and get that on the list of things to do in very short order. So, I will try for next week, and that may or may not happen, but as long as we get set up ahead of time, I should be able to do that. But yeah, in the meantime, I would work on your front post, back post skills, and that will help as far as that goes. All right. Well, I actually am feeling myself wearing down here. I'm ready for bed, honestly. I don't normally go to bed anywhere near this early, but I can feel myself getting sleepier. Like I'd just like to put my head down right now and use these yarn as a pillow. But Val's asking for a blocking tutorial as well. We certainly could do that as soon as I've got another thing to block, but there are probably 5 blocking tutorials, I would guess. A variety of different techniques, all on the channel already. Yeah, so we did one with an overhead camera. We've done actually probably my first live video was blocking a crazy elephant rug that I didn't even make. Or was it no?
The first video was blocking, I think, but it was blocking.
Well, there's an elephant, there's a cowl, there's a acrylic shawl, there's a couple of wool shawls. There should be quite a bit of variety on the channel already. And we might be able to get a link to the playlist that has all of those blocking tutorials. But I think I cover wet blocking, spray blocking. I don't think I've ever covered steam blocking, but I think I talk through it in a couple of the tutorials. But I would recommend starting there, and a lot of times I end up blocking live anyway when I get around to blocking a finished project. but certainly if you have more questions about blocking, join me back here next week and ask those then. Or, like I said, you are free to message me at Experiments in Crafting on Facebook or Instagram. Catcraft would like to see some amigurumi assembly tips and tricks, crochet on the go, show and tell, must-haves, and favorite crochet tools / yarn. Those are all good ideas, and we're gonna probably grab that that suggestion and keep it for some stream ideas. Making amigurumi assembly less painful. Recently I've mostly been working single piece amigurumi. That's been interesting. Or not single piece, but minimal pieces. So that's been a little bit different. The first ones I ever made were like tons of teeny little pieces. But these ones, like the dolls that I've been making, these dolls to here are one piece. The arms are a second and third pieces, I guess, and the head is a fourth piece. I guess technically the legs are worked separately and then joined at the hips, but it's, I don't know. There are more and more patterns where there's minimal pieces, which is pretty nice because I feel you there as far as like making assembly a little bit easier because it can be tricky. I'll see what I can come up with as far as tips from what I've learned. Amigurumi hair for certain. I wonder if I should hold off doing the hair on this doll and do it live, if that's something that would be of interest to people. It's probably not terribly interesting to sit and watch an hour of, but maybe that's something we can talk about. And Catcraft also is interested in the best way to join yarn, knot, etc. We can talk a little bit about how I join yarn. I don't do any of the fancy joins. Like I don't do a Russian join. I don't love sewing in my ends, but it doesn't bother me that much. So I kind of do a traditional join in a lot of cases, but I can show you how I join my yarn, and how I do color changes as well. All right. Well, that is a ton of really good suggestions. Stephanie would also like to see hair, and Catcraft suggested 20 things to make with granny squares. I'm probably not the expert there. Val's saying that they definitely want to watch an hour of me putting hair into the doll. that's what they're there for. So maybe I will hold off till next week and putting the hair onto this doll, and we'll give it a go live on stream. So it's an interesting process, but I find it fun to do. So I don't know how fun it'll be to watch, but we'll find out. So I think with that being said, if you guys have more ideas, I'd love to hear them. You can put them in the comment section on the video or message them to me directly. Again, at Experiments in Crafting on Facebook or Instagram. Otherwise, I will see you next Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Time. And until then, have a great rest of this week and part of next week, and I will see you then. Thanks for joining me. Bye.